Oh, it's happening. And this time, it's not just royal gossip. Word from Westminster is shaking the palace walls. The British Parliament, meaning the actual lawmakers, are preparing to do what the monarchy itself refuses to: strip Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of their royal titles. After years of Netflix deals, tell-all confessions, and endless red carpet drama, the patience of Britain's establishment has officially run out. The whispers have turned into paperwork. And this time, it's not rumor, it's reform. London. Gray skies, cold rain, and whispers echoing through the corridors of power. Inside Westminster's ancient stone halls, something historic is brewing. Not gossip, not palace rumor. Something far more dangerous: legislation. According to multiple insiders, members of Parliament are preparing to take a step that hasn't been seen in nearly a century: a royal intervention by law. They're calling it the Letters Patent Reform Bill, but behind closed doors, it's earned another nickname: the Crown Reset. For years, politicians have watched from the sidelines as the Sussex saga played out like a never-ending Netflix series. Interviews, documentaries, books, podcasts, and public feuds that turned royal dignity into primetime entertainment. But now, Westminster's patience has finally run out. Sources say senior MPs, both conservatives and moderates, have quietly begun drafting legal language that would allow Parliament to revoke royal titles from any member of the monarchy deemed to have brought the institution into disrepute. That's legal talk for, if you embarrass the crown, you lose your crown. The implications are massive. This wouldn't just target the Sussexes. It could include Prince Andrew, the York sisters, and even future heirs who cross the line between public duty and personal profit. It's the biggest constitutional gamble since 1936, when a king gave up the throne for love. Only this time, the stakes aren't romance, they're reputation. Imagine the scene: oak-paneled committee rooms lit by flickering lamps, aides whispering about clauses that could erase royal titles with the stroke of a pen. One MP allegedly described the moment as a quiet thunderstorm. No shouting, just destiny being written in ink. And here's the twist that gives the whole story its spark. This isn't rebellion against the monarchy. It's an act of protection. To save the institution, Parliament is willing to discipline it. The underlying message couldn't be clearer. If you mock the crown, you don't get to profit from it. Every bill has its inspiration, and this one has a face, or rather two. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex, once the golden couple of modern royalty, now the poster pair for disillusionment. To lawmakers, their Hollywood transformation symbolizes everything wrong with the old system: privilege without purpose, prestige without service. Inside those quiet chambers, as pens scratch paper and coffee cools, one sentiment unites rival parties: enough is enough. The age of untouchable royals may be coming to an end, and the first thunderclap is echoing from Westminster. While Westminster quietly hums with legal whispers, a very different kind of storm is gathering behind palace walls. At the center of it stands Prince William, the future king who's long been described as calm, steady, the peacemaker. But according to insiders, that image hides something colder, sharper, and far more strategic. For months now, William has reportedly been keeping watch, not through press statements or family calls, but through silence. Every Netflix episode, every podcast soundbite, every tell-all confession, he's watched them all, not as a brother, but as a future monarch calculating consequences. Because in William's world, reputation is currency, and the Sussexes have been spending it like confetti. He's heard the whispers in Parliament corridors, the frustration from senior aides, and the fear that the crown's prestige, built over centuries, is slipping into satire. And at some point, something inside him shifted. The heir stopped watching and started planning. Insiders describe him as quietly furious, not the loud, temper-flaring kind of anger, but the royal kind. the kind that looks like still water on the surface while a current rages underneath. He's reportedly told close advisors, "This can't go on. If we let the monarchy become a punchline, we lose everything." For William, this isn't just about Harry and Meghan, it's about the legacy he's set to inherit. A monarchy that once stood above celebrity now risks being drowned by it. And when the king, his father, refused to act, William did what every great tactician does. He built alliances. Not with the tabloids, not with PR firms, with Parliament itself. Several political sources claim that over the past year, William has held a series of private meetings, discreet dinners with sympathetic MPs, quiet chats after official events, where he carefully made his case. He didn't demand, he persuaded. He painted a vision of a modern monarchy, one that serves, not sells, one that protects its honor instead of renting it out. And he made it clear, the Sussex problem wasn't personal anymore, it was institutional. The room shifted. The politicians listened. And that's when the whispers of a royal titles reform stopped being an idea and started becoming a mission. William's genius isn't just in diplomacy, it's in timing. He waited until his father was stretched thin, juggling public sympathy, political caution, and global optics. And then, he quietly nudged the wheel of history forward. Those close to him say he's taken lessons from the crown itself. Never shout when silence can move mountains. Now, the British press paints him as the reluctant hero, the prince cleaning up the mess his generation inherited. But behind closed doors, insiders use a different word. They call him the hammer. Because when William moves, it's final. He doesn't yell, he doesn't warn, he acts. And every source from Buckingham to Westminster agrees. The push to strip the Sussexes' titles bears his fingerprints. It's the perfect royal paradox, calm, collected, and quietly ruthless. To the public, he's the future king who smiles. To the insiders, he's the one who finally said, "Enough." Inside Buckingham Palace, the air feels heavy. Not with ceremony, but with something colder. Uncertainty. The walls that once echoed with polished laughter and orchestral grace now carry the quiet hum of tension. The king's aides move like ghosts, whispering in corners, clutching folders stamped "Private Correspondence." Even the grand corridors feel narrower, tighter, as if the palace itself is holding its breath. And at the center of it all, King Charles III, a man torn between two identities, the father who still remembers holding his son as a boy, and the monarch sworn to protect a 1,000-year-old institution. Sources close to the palace describe Charles as visibly aged by the pressure. Every move is weighed, every silence dissected. On one side of the scale sits love, for his son, for his grandchildren, for the memory of family dinners before the storm. On the other side lies duty, the expectation that a king must lead with the head, not the heart. And lately, the balance has begun to tip. Privately, senior aides have urged him to make a decision before Parliament forces his hand. One insider put it bluntly, "If the monarchy won't discipline its own, the government will do it for them." But Charles hesitates. Always the diplomat, he fears the optics, especially across the Atlantic. The last thing he wants is headlines screaming, "King punishes the Duchess." The palace knows how fast those narratives travel, how quickly compassion turns to outrage in the social media age. Meanwhile, Prince William is done waiting. To him, hesitation looks like weakness, and weakness, in his mind, is how empires fall. Behind closed doors, the father and son have reportedly clashed. Not in shouting matches, but in those cutting, British ways where tension hides behind perfect posture. A pause too long, a sigh in a meeting, a door closing just a little harder than necessary. Insiders describe one particularly tense exchange between them, where William told his father, "If we don't protect the crown, we won't have one left to protect." Charles didn't answer. He simply looked away. The silence said more than words ever could. It's the oldest royal tragedy rewritten for the modern age, the heir who believes his father is too gentle, and the father who fears his son has become too cold. Between them stands the ghost of Diana, the mother who taught both men how powerful empathy can be, and how deadly public perception becomes when empathy runs out. To the outside world, they still appear united, two kings in waiting, one reigning, one rising. But behind those gilded gates, the palace has become a chessboard. Every gesture matters. Every headline is a move. And in this game, William isn't just playing defense. He's protecting his future throne. Charles is trying to protect his family. And Harry, the son caught in the middle, has already chosen the other side of the board. That's why aides describe Buckingham right now with one chilling phrase: the house is divided, not by politics, but by pain. While Buckingham wrestles with emotion, Westminster sharpens its pen. In Parliament's committee rooms, a world away from palace chandeliers, the tone is far less sentimental. There's no crown, no coronation portraits, no lingering nostalgia for royal childhoods. Here, it's paperwork, precedent, and purpose. According to insiders, the movement has taken shape under a working title whispered in hushed tones: the One Bill Solution. Its goal? Simple and seismic. A single act powerful enough to strip royal titles, reset hierarchies, and draw a bright line between service and status. Imagine a legal guillotine, precise and silent, built from ink and statute instead of steel. This is Parliament's answer to royal chaos. Not outrage, not scandal, reform. One political aide described it like this: "We're not destroying the monarchy, we're disinfecting it." The proposed legislation is built on a foundation nearly forgotten by history: the 1917 letters patent, created by King George V to define who could call themselves prince or princess. That law was meant to protect tradition in a world shaken by war. Now, over a century later, lawmakers want to rewrite it for a new battlefield: public trust. The draft's rumored to contain a single devastating clause: titles may be retained only by those in active service of the Crown, residing within the United Kingdom, and conducting themselves in a manner consistent with royal dignity. It's elegant, brutal, and final. No name is mentioned, but everyone knows who it was meant to target. The same Parliament that once protected royal privilege is now preparing to redefine it. And make no mistake about it, this isn't just about Harry and Meghan. It's about precedent. In one sweeping motion, the bill could neutralize every controversy haunting the monarchy. From Prince Andrew's disgrace to the Sussexes' Hollywood ventures, every lingering embarrassment handled cleanly, legally, and without palace interference. One MP reportedly joked, "We're doing what the Crown can't: house cleaning." Another added more seriously, "This isn't vengeance, it's preservation." But beneath the paperwork and parliamentary decorum, there's something more emotional brewing: the return of control. For years, the Crown has been reactive, scrambling to contain fallout from interviews, leaks, and televised betrayals. Now, for the first time, the establishment is striking first. Political analysts are already calling it a modern constitutional coup, because if the One Bill Solution passes, it doesn't just strip titles, it resets the balance of power between monarchy and Parliament itself. It would be a signal to the world that in 2025 Britain, even royalty answers to law. And yet, for all its legal polish, the timing feels strategic. Rumors swirl that the bill's sudden momentum didn't start inside Westminster at all. It started with a whisper from Kensington Palace, Prince William's whisper. The heir who spent years biting his tongue may have finally found his voice. Not in the press, not in interviews, but in policy. A silent signature on a bill that could erase the names of his brother and sister-in-law from royal history. For the first time, the monarchy isn't just defending itself from scandal, it's weaponizing reform. Across the Atlantic, the sky over Montecito is gold and quiet. But inside Meghan Markle's modern glass mansion, the atmosphere feels anything but calm. Phones buzz, PR staff whispers. The Duchess who once conquered red carpets now stares at glowing screens that read one phrase again and again: Royal Reform Bill. It hits like a thunderclap wrapped in legal language. If Parliament strips her titles, the very word that fuels her empire, Duchess, disappears. Because let's be real, the title isn't just heritage for Meghan, it's currency. Every sponsorship, podcast, and brand collaboration hangs on that single glittering word. It's what turned a former actress into a global brand ambassador for moral luxury. According to insiders, she immediately called an emergency meeting with her PR chiefs, stylists, and attorneys. Midnight in California, 8 a.m. in London. The room is lit by laptop glow, and the Duchess is pacing barefoot on marble floors, coffee in hand, fury in her voice. One aide describes her tone as controlled panic, the sound of someone trying to stop an avalanche with a spoon. The first order of business: damage control. Draft statements, adjust business plans. By dawn, her communications director is on a call with British press liaisons, trying to gauge whether this is rumor or revolution. The answer comes bluntly: it's happening. Within hours, every PR spreadsheet tied to the Duchess of Sussex branding is flagged for revision. Podcast intros, website bios, even merchandise mock-ups for future collaborations. If the title vanishes, entire product lines die overnight. An insider reportedly overheard her say, "They're not just taking my title, they're taking the story that built it." The panic isn't vanity, it's identity. For years, Meghan positioned herself as the woman who walked away from privilege but kept her purpose. A duchess reborn as a philanthropist, a mother, a modern icon of compassion. But if Parliament legally removes that title, the narrative collapses. No duchess, no royal glow. Just Meghan, celebrity among celebrities. She starts calling her lawyers in London, her publicist in New York, and a confidant in Beverly Hills who specializes in reputation triage. A plan begins to form. Rebrand fast, spin faster. Drafts circulate under a new label, Independent Royal Initiative. But each draft sounds hollow without the crown. Meanwhile, her team scrambles to prep social media responses. Do they go defiant? "I don't need titles to have purpose." Or dignified silence? One advisor suggests posting a quote about self-worth. Another says to stay quiet. Meghan disagrees. "If I don't control the story, someone else will." And so, a familiar rhythm begins. Press leaks, rumor denials, cryptic posts, subtle symbolism. The same playbook that once charmed the media now feels tired, almost transparent. Behind the polished facade, insiders describe the mood in Montecito as controlled meltdown. Assistants field calls from stylists asking if upcoming magazine shoots should drop the Duchess styling. One top fashion house pauses negotiations entirely, saying it needs to review optics. For Meghan, it's déjà vu. The same icy rejection she felt after Birkengate in Paris, now multiplied by law. Her staff tries to reassure her. "It's just talk, ma'am." Parliament moves slowly. But she knows better. When institutions whisper, power is already in motion. And somewhere between strategy sessions and sleepless nights, Meghan begins plotting her next move. Not retreat, but reinvention. If Britain's closing the door on royalty, she'll open another. One lined with ethics, empowerment, and glossy redemption arcs. But there's a catch. This time, the world isn't watching with curiosity. It's watching with exhaustion. The Duchess may have lost her titles yet again, but worse, she may have lost the audience's sympathy. Across the same Montecito estate, separated by a few quiet corridors and 1,000 unspoken words, Prince Harry sits in what aides call the office. It's really a private den, mahogany shelves lined with army photos, trophies from charity polo matches, and reminders of a life that once felt solid. Tonight, it feels like it's collapsing. The television is muted, but the ticker scrolls across every channel. UK Parliament advances Royal Reform Bill. Titles under review. For Meghan, it's business crisis. For Harry, it's identity collapse. Sources close to the family say he's been pacing for days, calling palace aides, texting old friends from the military, even attempting to reach his father, all with one simple plea: please, don't let them take it. Because for Harry, the title of prince was never about status. It was about belonging, a thread connecting him to the only world he's ever known. And now, that thread is unraveling, in public, in real time. Those who know him best say this feels like déjà vu, the same sense of helplessness he felt after his mother's death, after the military exit, after the Netflix backlash. Except this time, there's no scandal to hide behind, no tabloid villain to blame. This time, the threat comes from the very system that once protected him. He's reportedly called the palace multiple times, not official channels, but direct, personal, emotional. A voice note to his father, calm but cracking. "Dad, please don't let this happen. Not like this." The call was never returned. Inside royal circles, sources describe King Charles as frozen by conflict. The monarch who can call any world leader can't pick up the phone to his own son. And perhaps that silence hurts most. Friends say Harry has become withdrawn, quieter, heavier. He's always been the emotional one, the heart-driven one. But this new wave of rejection hits deeper than headlines or gossip. It threatens his very name. Because what happens to Prince Harry when the world stops calling him Prince? What's left? The soldier? The husband? The Hollywood exile? Insiders claim he's begun rethinking everything, from memoir projects to public appearances, realizing how fragile influence becomes when it's built on borrowed prestige. He's allegedly told one friend, "If they take the title, they take my voice." But that's where the tragedy lies. It's not the loss of voice, it's the loss of home. For years, Harry believed he could redefine what royalty means: modern, free, emotionally honest. But now, as Parliament moves against him, that dream feels like a ghost of another life. Reports suggest that even his relationship with Meghan has grown strained under the pressure. Where she strategizes, he broods. Where she plans, he pleads. Two different reactions to the same unraveling legacy. In one tense exchange overheard by staff, Meghan reportedly said, "We'll rebuild. We always do." And Harry quietly answered, "But what if there's nothing left to rebuild from?" He's not angry, not anymore. Now he's just tired. The man who once walked behind his mother's coffin under the world's gaze now walks behind his own reputations. One insider put it simply, "Meghan's fighting the system." Harry's still trying to be forgiven by it. And as the reform bill inches closer to passing, the weight of that truth settles heavy. For the first time, the prince who left the palace might finally be realizing what he left behind. Not privilege, but purpose. The calls continue, the replies don't. And in that silence, Harry begins to understand something that haunts every royal exile through history. When the crown turns away, there's nowhere else to go. Archie Harrison and Lilibet Diana. Names once whispered with royal affection, now typed in parliamentary drafts like legal footnotes. Two children born beneath California sunshine, now caught in a centuries-old storm across the ocean. The proposed reform bill doesn't name them directly. It doesn't have to. It simply states that royal titles belong to those who reside within the United Kingdom and render service to the crown. 8 plain words that carry generations of consequence. For the first time in modern history, lawmakers are openly questioning whether foreign-born royal children should retain their inherited titles. In hushed Westminster meetings, aides reportedly called it a matter of fairness. In Montecito, Meghan calls it something else, an attack on my children. Sources close to her say she's devastated, pacing her home as staff refresh Twitter feeds and draft new press statements. To Meghan, the titles aren't just ceremonial, they're symbolic. They're proof that her children belong, that their lineage, half British, half American, still matters to the institution that once rejected her. To Parliament, however, this isn't about emotion. It's about policy. They argue that monarchy and privilege can't exist in exile. One insider summed it up coldly. If they choose California, they choose ordinary life. That's the price of distance. But the British press isn't cold. They're relentless. Front pages explode with the phrase, "No crown for California kids." It immediately starts trending. Morning talk shows debate it like sport. Is it fairness? or punishment by another name. Back in Montecito, Meghan reportedly cancels all public appearances for a week. Friends say she's furious, not just at Parliament, but at the narrative itself, that her children's innocence has become a national talking point. They've never even seen the palace, she told one confidant. How can they be punished by it? Meanwhile, Harry watches in silence. To him, the conversation isn't just cruel, it's personal. He knows what it feels like to grow up under headlines, to have your childhood turned into a spectator sport. And now, that same fate is reaching across the Atlantic toward his son and daughter. But the cruelest twist? Even within the palace, the whispers aren't sympathetic. Royal aides reportedly view the move as inevitable. Titles aren't birthrights anymore, one senior official said. They're responsibilities. And responsibilities can be revoked. In that single sentence, the future of the Sussex children changes forever. Inside the Montecito mansion, Meghan's emotions reportedly swing between fury and heartbreak. She starts drafting letters, personal, emotional appeals, to senior members of the royal household. One line, according to a source, read, "My children are not political symbols. They are family." But family, in royal life, is complicated. There's the family of the heart and the family of the crown. And the crown answers only to itself. By week's end, British papers publish side-by-side photos. On one side, Prince George smiling at a school event. On the other, a paparazzi shot of Meghan carrying Lilibet down a Montecito driveway. The contrast says everything. One child destined for duty, the other for distance. For Meghan, it's a line drawn not in sand but in blood. For Harry, it's the cruel realization that his children, his greatest act of love, are now the price of his rebellion. In the court of public opinion, sympathy splits in two. Half the world sees a mother protecting her kids. The other half sees a duchess demanding privileges she walked away from. And somewhere between those narratives, two small names hang in limbo: Archie and Lilibet. Caught between the kingdom they never knew and the one that never wanted them. It happens quietly. No royal statements, no breaking news alerts, no interviews with velvet-lined chairs and careful smiles. Just silence. A still London night. Big Ben strikes midnight. And in that moment, centuries of tradition take a digital form. A website refresh. Inside the Royal Communications Office, a junior staffer clicks a mouse. The cursor hovers over two words: Duke and Duchess. With one keystroke, they vanish. No ceremony, no speeches. Just the quiet hum of a server confirming the change. Update successful. At first, nobody notices. The royal family's official website isn't exactly morning reading for the world's insomniacs. But then, a journalist sees it. The titles beside Harry and Meghan's names are gone. By 12:37 a.m., screenshots flood X, formerly Twitter. By 1 a.m., #royal website trends worldwide. By sunrise, the story has exploded. Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles removed. The palace doesn't issue a correction. It doesn't have to. The change is the statement. For those inside the institution, the silence is by design. There's no need for confrontation when symbolism speaks louder. In Buckingham's marble corridors, senior aides simply refer to it as the update. No adjectives, no debate, just a collective exhale, a decision finally made. Across the Atlantic, however, the mood is anything but calm. At 4 p.m. California time, Meghan's head of communications bursts into her study, laptop in hand. She doesn't need to speak. Meghan sees the headline glowing on the screen. Her face, usually composed, media-ready, reportedly drains of color. There's no anger this time, no speeches, just disbelief. After years of speculation, Parliament had done it. The Crown had agreed. The Duchess of Sussex, a title she'd built empires around, had officially been erased. Harry gets the news minutes later. A friend claims he didn't shout, didn't curse. He just sat down, staring out the window toward the hills. The same hills where he once said he finally found peace. Now they just look distant. British morning shows go live within hours. BBC anchors speak with the calmness of history narrators. The official royal website no longer lists the Duke and Duchess titles. The couple will now be referred to simply as Harry and Meghan. Just like that. 4 words gone, and with them, a dynasty rewritten. In London, Parliament confirms what the Internet already knows. The Royal Titles Reform Act has passed its final stage. Signed, sealed, and quietly, Buckingham doesn't deny a thing. For King Charles, it's closure. Painful, necessary, inevitable. For Prince William, it's vindication. The silent victory of a man who never needed to shout. And for Harry and Meghan, it's the full circle. The crown they walked away from, finally walking away from them. By dawn, British papers print headlines with almost poetic finality. The Sussex era ends. Titles gone, silence speaks. In Montecito that same morning, Meghan reportedly stands on her balcony watching the sunrise. Golden, indifferent, breathtaking. Somewhere in that light she realizes, the fairy tale didn't end with a coronation. It ended with a cursor. When the dust settles over Westminster, London feels strangely calm. No royal motorcades, no televised statements. Just gray skies, steady rain, and the echo of history quietly rearranging itself. Inside Buckingham Palace, aides describe the mood as somber relief. One senior official reportedly whispered, "It's done. It's finally done." King Charles retreats to his private study at Clarence House, a single lamp glowing against the fogged window. He's surrounded by silence, the kind of silence that kings are trained to endure. Sources say he stared at an unsigned letter for nearly an hour, a personal note to Harry that he couldn't bring himself to send. To the world, he's a monarch who acted with grace. To himself, he's a father who couldn't find the right words. Meanwhile, at Kensington Palace, the atmosphere is colder, sharper. For Prince William, this is victory. Not loud, not gloating, but precise. He's done what his father couldn't, contained the chaos. Those close to him say he spent the evening alone in his office, reviewing briefing papers and watching Parliament's replay footage with quiet satisfaction. One aide described him as calm as marble. He doesn't celebrate, the aide said. He observes. He absorbs. He plans the next move. The public sees a prince with composure. Insiders see something else. A strategist who understands that the strength of the crown isn't in speeches, it's in silence. And it's that silence that now defines the monarchy. The Reform Act has done more than strip titles. It's reasserted something older, colder, and deeply British, the idea that the crown always outlasts the individual. No matter the scandal, no matter the sorrow, the institution endures. The symbolism ripples outward. Parliament stands taller. The monarchy feels steadier. And for the first time in years, the British establishment looks unshaken. Across the Atlantic, however, the story lands differently. In Montecito, Meghan reportedly spends the evening scrolling through a sea of hashtags: royal reform, good riddance, justice for the crown. Her name attached to every one. For her, silence feels like suffocation. She tells her team, "They'll paint this as my defeat. We have to own the narrative." But for once, the narrative doesn't belong to her. It belongs to history. Harry, meanwhile, is said to have withdrawn completely. No public appearances, no social calls. One friend says he's mourning something that can't be buried, the version of himself he believed still existed. And as the world debates, one image captures it all. A London photographer waiting outside Westminster as dawn breaks captures a single shot. Rain streaking down a bronze statue of Queen Elizabeth II. The camera catches the reflection of Big Ben in the puddle below, perfectly framed. The caption reads simply, "Legacy remains." That photo goes viral. Not because it's beautiful, though it is, but because it says what no headline can. The monarchy has survived again. The players have changed, the rules rewritten, the titles erased. But the story, the myth of royalty itself, continues untouched. For King Charles, it's a bittersweet redemption. For Prince William, it's the calm after conquest. For Harry and Meghan, it's exile without ceremony. The names Harry and Meghan will still trend, still sparkle in headlines and hashtags, but something fundamental has changed. The titles that once defined them are gone. What remains are two people, stripped of ceremony, surrounded by echo. For Britain, this moment feels oddly familiar. A cycle repeating. Rebellion followed by restoration. Noise swallowed by silence. Every generation thinks they're witnessing the fall of the monarchy, until the crown reminds them it never truly falls. It adapts. It endures. It waits. And this time, endurance came not through opulence, but through control. Silent, deliberate, and absolute. The parliament didn't roar. The king didn't weep. The air didn't gloat. They simply moved on. In Montecito, the sun sets with the same quiet finality. Meghan sits at her writing desk, the glow of a laptop illuminating her face. Harry walks the garden path alone, head down, hands in pockets, eyes tracing the horizon that no longer points home. The same hills that once promised peace now echo with a single truth. You can leave the palace, but you can't escape its shadow. The monarchy has reclaimed its power. Parliament has proven its reach, and the Sussex chapter, once a story of freedom, has become a lesson in consequence. Because in the royal world, rebellion may win sympathy, but tradition always wins time. And as that timeless machine called the crown hums back to life, one question hangs in the morning light over London. If Parliament and the future king can rewrite the monarchy once, what else might they rewrite next? This is Fame Loop Daily, where we uncover what they won't, where whispers become truth, and where legacy is never as untouchable as it seems. If you enjoyed today's deep dive, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss the stories that shape the elite world behind closed doors. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and stay looped in.